All right, so it happened again. Justin Trudeau was found out in public and he is not left alone. And this is kind of a controversial issue because a lot of people, well, some people think that there's a time and place to heckle or confront politicians, especially Justin Trudeau. And other people on the flip side of the coin say, no, if you commit treason, you should be confronted to the point of potentially what one can construed as harassment at all times. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Is this crossing the line when Trudeau's out skiing or I guess snowboarding, or is it not? Let's leave that up to you guys in the comments. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Justin Trudeau has been spotted in Thunder Bay snowboarding with a bit of a feminine charm. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that he snowboards like a girl because I have lots of friends who are females that snowboard, and they're actually really good, like insanely good. So it's not even an insult to say he snowboards like a girl, but he snowboards quite femininely, and we're going to take a look at that. But before we do, I want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're on road to 400,000 subscribers. Mainstream media and the government sure is not happy about that. So if you don't want to subscribe for me, do it because the government doesn't want you to. And if you want a matching sticker like the one on my microphone or like any of the ones that I have in my shop, you can find the link down in the description or the pinned comment below. This is a 20% off bundle. I'm going to be ripping this off the shelf any moment now. They've been selling out and selling out and selling out. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled because there is going to be more sticker bundles to come. Now, without further ado, let's get into a bit of a warm-up here. Trudeau goes unhinged, arm-flailing rant, responding to a question about the Winnipeg lab leak. He blames Pierre Poilievre, of course. Everything is the Conservatives' fault for conspiracy theories, and says the Conservatives Party are not worthy of opposition. All right, let's take a little look at this before we get into the snowboarding debacle.
Question.
Jordan Olmsted with the Canadian Press. How is a scientist working on high-security viruses at the National Microbiology Lab allowed to collaborate with Chinese government agencies considered a threat to Canada?
A number of years ago, our security systems, our intelligence and security agencies flagged problems at the Winnipeg labs that were followed up on. We know as a country that increasingly countries like China and others are trying to either influence or get secrets out of our country. And that's why we have to continue to be extraordinarily vigilant about how we're making sure we're doing everything necessary to keep people safe, to keep our research institutions safe. As a government, we've taken many, many initiatives, and I've tasked our National Security and Intelligence Advisor to look even deeper at this Winnipeg's lab situation and make recommendations on how we can move forward appropriately. This is something that people would expect governments to take seriously and expect all parliamentarians to take seriously. Unfortunately, throughout this process, we have seen the Conservative Party, specifically Pierre Poilievre, choosing to spew conspiracy theories and drum up political attacks, partisan attacks, on an issue that, quite frankly, should be bringing Canadians and parliamentarians together to try and solve this. The quickness with which they're looking for partisan advantage is not just undermining Canadians' trust in the system, but interfering with the ability of Parliament to deal with this. One of the reasons it has taken so long to get this report into Parliament is because of the choice that Conservatives made to try and extract any amount of political advantage by drumming up a level of partisanship and toxicity that is not serving Canadians. There's lots of opportunity to have responsible political debates about how we're moving forward as a country and what needs to be fixed, what's being done well, what needs to be done better. Absolutely. That's part of the give and take in our democracy. But the choice to weaponize national security in a way that is rife with conspiracy theories and partisan attacks is a choice that I don't think is worthy of the kind of responsible leadership that Canadians deserve. I will also add that hearing two particular Conservative members, Michael Chong and James Bazan, suddenly being front and center on issues of security and international impact after having been complete ghosts over the past number of months on anything to do with standing up for Ukraine, for example, or even on the matter of their colleague Leslie Lewis calling for a withdrawal from the United Nations of Canada. They won't say a thing. But when it comes to making partisan attacks out of an issue that should be taken seriously by all parliamentarians, it's not worthy of an official opposition.
Thank you. Last question.
Wow, some big fighting words from Justin Trudeau. He likes to point the blame almost all the time to the Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilievre. He has like a reverse hard-on for him. And it's very bizarre because he takes no accountability. He just projects and projects and projects. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And if you want to see Justin Trudeau flailing his arms more and just acting like a complete idiot and sometimes even throwing massive tantrums and even walking out of Parliament, then I want to refer you to my second channel called House of Canada. It's where I live stream all the question periods and where I have a whole bunch of clips of the different types of question periods that happen. So the link for that is down in the description below. And now let's get into Justin Trudeau just can't go out in public and live a normal life, which is, I mean, do you think that's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think he's deserving of being heckled? I made a video dedicated to this clip the other day. This is when the Italian Prime Minister showed up and just got greeted with, she showed up to see Trudeau, and everywhere that they went together, you had these types of protests occurring. Now, it's embarrassing, not because people are protesting the government and have all these Trudeau flags. That part isn't embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we are one of the only countries where the leader of our country just can't go anywhere without flags showing up, massive signs, or now what you're about to see, being heckled and confronted on a ski hill. So he gets confronted by pro-Palestinian protesters while snowboarding in Thunder Bay. I believe that's Trudeau right there.
You're supporting Ukraine, which I totally agree with.
Which is this, by the way, this is insane, right? The fact that an average person can get this close to a prime minister is just insane. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to bait people into trying to do something, but I don't know any country where you have a prime minister that just walks around in Ottawa. Yeah, he's got a security team, and his security team is right here, right? This guy on skis is probably part of his security team. He's surrounded by them, right, at all times. But you can get so close to the prime minister and ask him questions. Like, it's pretty wild. We have a pretty wild system here in Canada.
You're not putting people out. You're not putting out.
خلاص زياد
Thank you. I called for a ceasefire as of December, and I'll keep calling for a ceasefire. Please do that. I will. Thank you.
There you go. So it's about a ceasefire, and he's saying, what's he doing here? Why has he got his hands over his head? Very bizarre, folks. But let me ask you guys down in the question. Let me ask you some comments down in the questions. Let me ask you a question for down in the comments. What do you think about Trudeau's snowboarding skills? I mean, it's a very short clip, right? But do you think that he's a good snowboarder? Do you think he's a bad snowboarder? Please let me know. We know that he has a lifelong history with the special rapporteur. Remember that guy who is his ski buddy from when he was a kid. So, yeah, he should be a little bit better than what just appeared on camera. But let's take a look here at some of the comments. Everything has a time and place, but some people will never understand that. So, as you can see, some people, not very few, don't get me wrong, very few, but some people do have a bit of a difficulty comprehending that there's just so much hatred for Justin Trudeau. And whenever you see him, yeah, of course you want to ask him questions. I'd feel a lot worse for him if it wasn't his own fault. There you go. This comment says, good, he shouldn't be allowed to do anything without being harassed at this point. You commit treason and all bets are off. And then you have an additional comment, bro, how does anyone get that close to our prime minister? It is kind of mind-boggling if you really think about it. Can they talk about the status of Canada? No offense at all. It's a great question. Calling for a ceasefire, but what about what about what's going on here? This is getting out of hand. People are angry and frustrated. There's a time and place to address issues. Prime Minister needs to increase security personnel at this rate. Now, that's a very weird thing to say because there hasn't been any reason to believe that you would need to increase security for politicians. Things have been pretty normal here in Canada, just being confronted and heckled. That's our right. You're allowed to ask politicians questions when you see them out in public. You're allowed to do that. There was no threats. There was no signs of violence. There was no aggression. His demeanor was just persistent, and he just went down the hill. What's he going to do? Is he going to ski up the hill in the opposite direction of Justin Trudeau? I mean, he's not a celebrity. He's leader of our country. You see him, you want questions answered, you want to ask questions. Why not take that opportunity, right? Next up, we have Jordan Peterson, who says, you're an absolute miracle of delusion, my dear Chrystia Freeland. So Chrystia Freeland the other day said, my message to PDAC 2024, our economic plan is turning Canada into a critical minerals superpower. From EV battery plants to net zero mining, we are responsibly unlocking Canada's natural resources to create more jobs and prosperity today and for the next generation. Now let's take a look at the comments here. Canada is one of the only countries that has no gold in reserve. I did not know that. I thought Canada, I mean, I guess I should have known that since you had like $80 million of gold stolen in broad daylight from Toronto Pearson Airport not too long ago. I'm not too surprised. Chrystia Freeland is actually looking at a giant picture of Justin Trudeau using a tampon. All right. Liberals want more of your hard-earned money. Your grandpa wanted Nazi Germany to be a superpower, but it didn't end well for the Germans. That's a very, very bold statement. But I'd love to know down in the comments what you guys think of Chrystia Freeland. She literally has come out and said in the past the budgets will balance themselves. So if you're wondering why there's a massive affordability issue and things just aren't the same financially here in Canada, you could probably point fingers at Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, and it would be well received. Next up, we have this clip that Pierre Poilievre shared from CTV. Mainstream media, folks. High interest rates and inflation are being blamed for the surge in mortgage delinquencies. Here we go.
New snapshot tonight from Equifax Canada of the financial pinch Canadians are facing and the growing number missing repayments. Nationally, mortgage delinquency rates rose 52.3% in the last quarter of 2023, more in BC and Ontario, where house prices are higher. Delinquency rates for non-mortgages, including credit cards, rose almost 30%. High interest rates and inflation are being blamed for the surge. The financial picture comes on the eve of the Bank of Canada's next interest rate decision tomorrow. The central bank is widely expected to hold at 5%. We are getting a new snapshot tonight from Equifax Canada of the financial pinch Canadians are facing and the growing number missing repayment.
So it's pretty horrible. A lot of people can't afford their mortgages, and I think you're going to see a massive housing crash where people in the next 2 years, when it's time to renew their mortgage rates from when they got it during the COOF, just aren't going to be able to afford it. And then you have, of course, these types of announcements here, the federal government hopes to vote for votes from the 24 budget amid voter fatigue. Let's take a look at this clip.
But let's talk about this a little bit more now with Laurie Turnbull, political analyst. Laurie, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Chrystia Freeland's messaging that came out with this announcement of the date was something along the lines of unlocking a path to the middle class. What does that say to you about what we might see in this spending plan?
Well, the growing the middle class and helping those who are trying to join it that has been their message since day one, since even before day one, before this government was elected back in 2015. They've been talking about growing the middle class, taking steps that are necessary to, get people to achieve that level of economic security. And of course, COVID didn't help with all of that, because this was something that obviously they didn't have on their horizon for what they thought they were going to be doing. And so I think in a lot of ways they're going to try to go back and sort of reclaim some of that. And this is all in advance of an election that will happen probably next year, and at a time when they're not doing great in the polls against the Conservatives, and they, the NDP are in this deal with the Liberals where they're both, potentially benefiting electorally from the types of things that have come from the deal, but still they run the risk of kind of eating one another's lunch and splitting the progressive vote. And so I think the Liberals are going to try to differentiate themselves and give people something to vote for. And this is going to be alongside other strategies around trying to deter people from voting Conservative, that kind of thing. And so, yeah.
It's interesting.
I personally do not think that there is anything that the Liberals could just scrounge up that would get more popularity and more people who are either Conservatives or even potentially NDP to then change their mind and say, you know what, this new policy is the make or break deal for me that the Liberals just came out with, and I will vote for them. I don't think that there's anything that they could come up with. And I'd love to know down in the comments if you also agree, or if you think that, hey, maybe if Liberals said this, more people would vote for them. Not that we're trying to give them ideas, but it's just the point of what I'm trying to get across is that they've dug themselves such a deep hole that they just cannot crawl themselves out of it. I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, because policy is one thing, but then the politics of it, as you mentioned, we have the Conservatives surging in the polls. We have this Liberal NDP deal on pharmacare. Will there be anything else in this budget to try and entice NDP support, I suppose, is the way I would put it?
Possibly. I mean, at the same time, though, there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Chrystia Freeland for her to show that she is showing some kind of fiscal restraint. And so there are many people, including many of them who, saw themselves within the fold of the Liberal Party, people who would have aligned themselves with people like John Manley, Paul Martin, that right side of the Liberal tent, which was always concerned with financial security and financial responsibility and taking the steps to make sure that the budget was balanced. And so now I think there are eyes on Chrystia Freeland to say, what are you doing on that? And are we going to slow spending? Are we going to balance things before we veer off in a direction that could see more spending? Are we going to get things balanced first? And so as much as the Liberals might be encouraged to try to pivot in a way that would show some kind of, that they're hearing that message. They're hearing from the right wing of the party that used to be, part of the Liberal Party. At the same time, they know they're competing with the NDP. Now, at this point, I think they're also just dealing with a massive voter fatigue issue. And it might not matter, which is not a great message, but it might not make a whole lot of difference what particular things are in the budget. I'm not sure that there's anything that the Liberals can do at this point to really get people to start looking in their direction as a possibility. I'm not sure what they can do to kind of get some voters to come back to them, or whether this is just a point where people are looking elsewhere.
Well, and what I guess, what you're hearing a lot of people say is that in terms of help dealing with the cost of living, housing, rising prices, that's the kind of help that people need right now, but budgets don't always provide things immediately.
They rarely provide things immediately. Budgets are usually larger fiscal pictures that might have some things in them that will trickle out immediately. But for the most part, it's sort of like, what are we going to do for the year? Where are different programs going to take shape over the next year, 2 years, 3 years? It could be that the Liberals use this opportunity to say, here are some things we're going to put in the window for the next number of years if you re-elect us. Because despite the fact that there seems to be a palpable sense of voter fatigue, I'm not sure they're feeling that. It seems to me that they still think that a win the next time or some version of that is possible. And so if they do think that, they might be trying to play a longer game, which could mean some items in this budget that require another term to actually see them through.
Okay. Laurie Turnbull, political analyst. Always appreciate the insight. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything the Liberals can do to get more votes and more popularity. I think that Trudeau has just dug himself such a deep hole. And we're not going to play the video, but this is from CTV. The title says, Trudeau's popularity struggles. Is it time for a new leader? So you even have mainstream media just across the board that's flipping the script and saying Trudeau is done. I mean, you've never seen a prime minister this low in the polls. It's one thing to not be a popular prime minister when it comes time for a next election, right? It's one thing for the opposition to be just more popular. It's another that we're witnessing for the prime minister to be so hated, like deep rooted hate for the horrible policies, the massive amount of gaslighting, and just the excruciating pain that a single person has inflicted on an entire nation. It's just insanity. And for that reason alone, but among everything else in addition, Trudeau will never, he'll never be good in Canadians' books. And the Liberal Party is probably going to be out of power for the next 15, 20 years. Fingers crossed, folks. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Any questions, comments, or concerns about any topics that I covered. Thanks so much for watching this video. That's where we're going to end it. Before you head out, I'd like to encourage you to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already, as well as if you wouldn't mind, maybe go over and subscribe to House of Canada. It's en route to 100,000 subscribers on that channel. That would be super appreciated. All right. I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.